Today is March 13th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, out of the Big Book, we're going to be reading a little bit more out of Our Southern Friend, pages 213 through 215. And out of the 12 and 12, we're going to be reading a little bit more about Step 9. We'll be reading the first half of page 85. So with all that, I hope you all are doing well this morning. Let's get right to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So if you recall from yesterday's reading, Our Southern Friend, his malady has certainly gotten worse. The first couple pages, he has a great home life, seems like. He seems happy. In college, he finally tries his first drink, and he really enjoys the warm glow. But then, yesterday's reading, we see that warm glow becomes something that he's chasing, and then his life becomes really unmanageable. He's drinking every day, can't pass tests without drinking. During the Great Depression, he's losing jobs, he's drinking some more, and his poor wife is at her wit's end. She's at the end of her rope. She doesn't know what else to do to help him. And in the last paragraph that we read yesterday, our Southern Friend says, I'm in a hospital for alcoholics. I am an alcoholic. So right there, that's a good sign. It sounds like he's finally getting honest with himself here, that he cannot control it. So we'll continue that thought. We're reading 213 through 215 today. 4 alcoholics play bridge in a smoke-filled room. Anything to get my mind from myself. The game is over, and the other 3 leave. I start to clean up the debris. One man comes back, closing the door behind him. He looks at me. You think you're hopeless, don't you? He asked. I know it, I reply. Well, you're not, says the man. There are men on the streets of New York today who are worse than you, and they don't drink anymore. What are you doing here then? I ask. I went out of here 9 days ago saying that I was going to be honest. But I wasn't, he answers. A fanatic, I thought to myself. But I was polite. What is it? I inquire. Then he asked me if I believe in a power greater than myself. Whether I call that power God, Allah, Confucius, Prime Cause, Divine Mind, or any other name. I told him I believe in electricity and other forces of nature, but as for a God, if there is one, he's never done anything for me. Then he asked me if I'm willing to right all the wrongs that I'd ever done to anyone, no matter how wrong I thought the others were. Am I willing to be honest with myself and tell someone about myself? And am I willing to think of other people, of their needs instead of myself, in order to get rid of this drink problem? I'll do anything, I replied. Then all your troubles are over, says the man, and leaves the room. The man is in a bad mental shape, certainly. I pick up a book and I try to read, but I can't concentrate. I get in bed, I turn out the light, but I cannot sleep. Suddenly a thought comes. Can all the worthwhile people that I have known be wrong about God? Then I find myself thinking about a few things that I had wanted to forget. I begin to see that I'm not the person I thought myself. That I had judged myself by comparing myself to others, and always to my own advantage. It's a shock. Then comes a thought that's like a voice. Who are you to say there's no God? It rings in my head. I can't get rid of it. I get out of bed and go to the man's room. He's reading. I must ask you a question, I say to the man. How does prayer fit into this thing? Well, he answers, you probably tried praying like I have. But when you've been in a jam, you've said, God, please do this or that. And if it turned out your way, that was the last of it. And if it didn't, you said, there isn't any God, or he doesn't do anything for me. Is that right? Yes, I reply. That's not the way, he continued. The thing I do is say, God, here I am, and here are all my troubles. I've made a mess of things and can't do anything about it. You take me and all my troubles and do anything you want with me. Does that answer your question? Yeah, it does, I answer. I return to bed. Doesn't make sense. Suddenly, I feel a wave of utter hopelessness sweep over me. I'm in the bottom of hell. And there, a tremendous hope is born. It might be true. I tumble out of bed onto my knees. I know not what to say. But slowly, a great peace comes to me. I feel lifted up. I believe in God. I crawl back into the bed and sleep like a child. Some men and women come to visit my friend of the night before. He invites me to meet them. They're a joyous crowd. I'd never seen people that joyous before. We talk. I tell them of the peace and that I believe in God. I think of my wife. I must write her. One girl suggests that I phone her. What a wonderful idea. Okay, wow, some pretty cool stuff here. Definitely want to come back to this in just a minute. I did read an extra paragraph, so I guess we left off on page 216. So hold that thought. We'll come back to it in a second. Alright guys, so if you recall, we are journeying through step 9, which is make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So on the bottom of page 84 yesterday, we were talking about kind of stepping out on that limb. And it says right here at the bottom, it says, we can pay or promise to pay whatever obligations, financial or otherwise, we owe. The generous response of most people to such quiet sincerity will often astonish us. Even our severest and most justified critics will frequently meet us more than halfway on the first trial. So with that, we're going to read the first paragraph of page 85. This atmosphere of approval and praise is apt to be so exhilarating as to put us off balance by creating an insatiable appetite for more of the same. Or we may be tipped over in the other direction when, in rare cases, we get a cool and skeptical reception. This will tempt us to argue, or to press our point insistently, or maybe it'll tempt us to discouragement and pessimism. But if we have prepared ourselves well in advance, such reactions will not deflect us from our steady and even purpose. All right, so that's all we're going to be reading today. You know, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I love the optimism and I love the idea that, hey, a lot of these people, when you make these amends, you know, that they do oftentimes, at least from my experience, they go, oh, I didn't even think about that, or that never even bothered me, but thank you for bringing that to my attention, you know, and thank you for apologizing. Most of the amends that I've made have been that way. However, what happens when we make those amends and they still cuss us out and tell us to get out of their life? What do we do then? I was told by a friend one time, you know, the amends really aren't about being forgiven and manipulating somebody to forgive us. I mean, that's control. The amends are cleaning our side of the street, admitting our wrongs. And whether they receive that and forgive us, that's their choice. And we can't control that. So if they do, you know, cuss us out, or if they do not receive our apology well, like it says right here, this will tempt us to argue or press on to point our point insistently, or maybe tempt us to discouragement or pessimism. At that point, I've done my part. I can keep praying for that person, and I let it go. And if there's any other amends I need to make, I don't use that as discouragement. I just keep going. I love this last line. But if we prepared ourselves well in advance, such reactions will not deflect us from our steady and even purpose to keep making those amends, to keep cleaning just our side of the street. What was my part in it, Rob? That's what I'm in control of. That's what I need to make amends for. And then going back to the big book real fast. Oh man, some great stuff. Finally, the last few pages, they've been dark. But I love how our Southern friend's talking to a friend in the program. And I love what the friend in the program says to him. I had a friend of mine say something very similar to me. I would often come to God with my checklist. Some of it was with good intention, I'm sure. But I was always asking God, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Take care of this person. Take care of that person. Do all these things. But I really like what the friend says here. He says on 2:15, the thing I do is say, God, here I am, and here are all my troubles. My higher power knows anyway, He knows what I've done. I think he's just waiting for me to just talk to him. I've made a mess of things, and Lord knows I have. I can't do anything about it. You take me and all my troubles and do anything you want with me. In other words, thy will be done. Oftentimes, I'm praying for my will to be done. I catch myself doing that. And then in mid-prayer, I go, wait a minute, no, not my will. Thy will be done, Father. And this, it looks like our Southern friend here has a spiritual experience, because shortly after this conversation, he's off on his own, and then he tumbles out of his bed onto his knees. He doesn't know what to say. Again, for my higher power, I don't have to sound fancy. I think he just wants to hear from me. It's about that one-on-one relationship. I know not what to say, but slowly a great peace comes to me. I feel lifted up. I believe in God. I crawl back into the bed and sleep like a child. Sounds to me like he has had his first major spiritual experience. And what a blessing it is. It doesn't always happen that way for people. The big book makes it very clear there's a difference between a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening. My experience has been, I certainly believed that a God existed before sobriety. But during sobriety, it's been more of a spiritual awakening. I feel like my relationship with my higher power is so much different than it was before. I've probably said it a few times. The God I grew up believing in, based on some of the perceptions I had of the churches I went to and some other things, was a God that was with you if you were good. If you're on your best behavior, he's going to be right by your side and you're going to feel peace. But when you slip up, he's going to abandon you. Or he's going to be angry with you and you're going to get it. I had to throw that idea out the window. And again, this is just me. I traded that for a God that loves me unconditionally. When I talked to my friends in the recovery, they told me I'd have to throw away some of those old prejudices about God. I wanted to believe in a God that loved me no matter what I've done, that chooses to love me no matter what I've done, and is holding my hand even when I want to let go of his. And that God has certainly helped me to be sober today. And that God certainly helps me to have peace today that I never knew existed. And that God, at least for me, has been a God that's helped the promises to come true in my life, where I have a new freedom and a new happiness. And I think I'll just keep believing in that God and trying to grow closer to that God of my understanding. But I love this experience. Finally, we're seeing some hope here. I am so grateful you guys tuned in today. I hope you all have a great day. As always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or any other sect or organization. I am just a grateful recovering alcoholic. So grateful you're in this lifeboat of recovery with me. I hope you all have a great one, and I am looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.